wonder how this policy evolved after decades of hostility, and CCTV's Nathan King joins us now with more on that. Nathan.
I think Mike was right. This is really historic, isn't it? Remember, look, we've had the Socialist Revolution, the Cuban Missile Crisis, the Bay of Pigs invasion, the American embargo. For more than 50 years, Washington and Havana have been on a Cold War footing. But that could all change.
Today, the United States of America is changing its relationship with the people of Cuba.
It started with a prisoner swap, but may end up being the biggest change in Cuban-US relations in half a century. Around the time of this handshake between the US and Cuban presidents at Nelson Mandela's funeral in December 2013, high-level contacts were established, negotiations in Canada and at the Vatican followed, and then a final phone call between the two presidents sealed the deal on Tuesday.
I do not believe we can keep doing the same thing for over 5 decades and expect a different result. Moreover, it does not serve America's interests or the Cuban people to try to push Cuba towards collapse.
These are some of the actions US President Barack Obama can take without lifting the full embargo against Cuba, which would require an act of the US Congress. This can be a re-establishment of diplomatic relations. Ambassadors will be swapped for the first time since 1961. Many travel restrictions will be lifted, and Cubans will be allowed to send more money from the US. American businesses and banks will be allowed to invest in Cuba, and US credit and debit cards could be used on the island. The US is also to review Cuba's designation as a state sponsor of terrorism. And going forward, Obama says there are key areas where the US and Cuba can work together.
Where we can advance shared interests, we will, on issues like health, migration, counterterrorism, drug trafficking, and disaster response.
The US says, however, that they will still push Cuba on improving human rights and moving towards democracy. But announcing these changes, President Obama compared the policy shift to the restoration of diplomatic relations with China and longtime foe Vietnam, and the removal of a key impediment in its relations with the rest of Latin America. This will also, of course, be a change to the dynamics of Cuba's relations with others, like Venezuela, Iran, Russia, and China, which have historically had closer ties with Cuba than its nearest neighbor, the US. And remember, the European Union is also in the middle of restoring diplomatic and economic relations with Cuba as well. So we're really at a time of massive change.
What about the reaction here in the United States? I'm sure it's all over the board.
Yeah, and of course, you know, all politics are local, and none more so than when it comes to Cuban politics. There are domestic political considerations here in the US, but the polls say people who fled Castro's Cuba in the 1960s were a big voting bloc in Florida, are giving way to a younger generation who want more contact with Cuba. And this new policy could be a vote winner for the next US president. But however, some of Obama's political rivals, including 2 potential presidential candidates, one of them with the name Bush, accusing him of appeasement and going along with the regime of the Castro government, as they say.
All right, Nathan, thanks so much.
Thank you.